Renault's little Captur Crossover model shows the French company getting back to their imaginative best, with a Clio-based design offering super-economical engines, some genuinely clever interior touches, and no small dose of style. It'll appeal to supermini buyers wanting extra versatility, as well as family hatchback customers in search of something more interesting and affordable. And it's the kind of car that'll certainly drive sales in this segment. You can't fault the thinking behind the modern crossover, a class of car that aims to blend the versatility of a people-carrying MPV, the attitude of a high-riding SUV, and the sharp driving dynamics of a family hatchback. It's a segment that's now divided into a couple of sectors, the larger one typified by cars like Nissan's Qashqai and Peugeot's 3008, and based on Focus-sized models. The real sales growth, though, is coming from smaller-sized, supermini-based crossovers, cars that are built on the original success of Nissan's pioneering Juke and are now a hot ticket for almost every mainstream brand. Here's one of the most tempting, Renault's Captur. Renault likes to think of itself as being an innovative manufacturer, which in some respects isn't actually quite true. Modern history records that when this Gallic maker has tried to do something genuinely innovative, the result has usually fallen flat. Think Avantime, Versatis, Clio V6 and so on. Where Renault really does tend to strike gold, though, is by taking existing vehicle genres, then refining them and adding style and substance. The company's Renault Sport hot hatches are one example of this. Their award-winning MPVs are another. In both cases, the French brand borrowed from other companies' pioneering ideas, but packaged the products so well they became bywords for excellence in their segments. It hopes to do the same with the Captur, a small crossover vehicle based on the Clio Supermini and priced to sell at the affordable end of this segment. Renault might be late to this particular party, but as usual the company has taken a clever concept and refined it to better suit the needs of modern buyers. In this case, that means extra versatility and buyer personalisation, along with class-leading running costs and a decently responsive driving experience. The result is good enough to make this Renault's second best seller. Let's put it to the test. So, what's it like? Well, set off on your first drive, and if you're used to a supermini, the more commanding driving position will be welcome, unless you're the kind of enthusiastic owner who realises that with extra ride height, you usually also get extra body roll through the bends. Renault appreciates this too, which is why the Captur features a roll movement intervention system, supposed to stop the body pitching about through sharp corners. It also gets stiffer springs and dampers, which deliver an inevitably more pronounced feel to low-speed bumps. Though, to be fair, the ride does more comfortably settle down on faster flowing roads. Through the bends, these anti-roll measures can only do so much. There is a little more body movement than you get in a conventional small car. But you won't really notice it unless you're throwing the thing around in a manner most typical Captur owners are unlikely to regularly countenance. Should, however, you be running late for the school play or have left something burning in the oven and find yourself pressing on a bit, you might notice that turn-in is actually quite sharp, thanks not only to the firm setup, but also to what Renault calls an understeer control system that lightly brakes the inside front wheel through tight bends, sharpening turn-in and ensuring that all the power gets onto the tarmac. Under the bonnet, almost all Captur owners will find 90 brake horsepower beneath their right foot, unless they're amongst the tiny minority who've opted for the 120 brake horsepower 1.2 litre TCE petrol model that's offered only with a twin-clutch 6-speed EDC automatic gearbox. Not prepared to pay the premium for that? No, I didn't think you would be, which is why here I've chosen the engine that most buyers will want, the 1.5 litre DCI diesel. Now, in a comparable Nissan Juke, this same unit puts out another 20 brake horsepower. But most buyers won't really notice the lack of those extra braked horses, given perfectly adequate performance figures here of rest to 62 miles an hour in around 13 seconds on the way to a top speed of 106 miles an hour. On paper, that's the same kind of pace you can expect from the mainstream petrol option, the 3-cylinder 0.9 litre TCE 90 unit. In practice, because that TCE engine gives you over 50% less pulling power than this DCI diesel, it is, as usual, the black pump option that'll feel the quicker in day-to-day use. Don't get any designs on off-roading though. The Captur's not really into all that. You only need to look at how snugly the wheels fit into the arches to figure that out. There's no four-wheel drive option, and there won't be, for the platform this car rides upon hasn't been designed to take it. In compensation, I'd expected that the engineers behind this car might have added in the kind of grip control system that you'd find on something like a Peugeot 2008, so that you can maximise front-wheel traction on slippery surfaces. But Renault hasn't bothered with that either, instead equipping this car with something that'll probably be of much more use on poor surfaces: decent ground clearance. With 200mm of ride height, the Peugeot, in contrast, has only 165mm. With that, you'd be able to get a surprisingly long way on muddy tracks in this car if you equipped it with a proper set of winter tyres. Passionate, practical and innovative. Is that what this is? Well, the answer depends, as usual, upon your point of view. The Captur is certainly an eye-catching thing, especially when specified in contrasting colours and finished with this exterior trim gloss pack around the fog lights and the grille. Cars of this kind have to make a statement, and in styling this one to do just that, Renault wanted to replicate the success that its partner Nissan has enjoyed in the urban crossover market for small, beefier-looking supermini-based models. This one isn't as visually pretentious as a Nissan Juke, which you may not like, but it's undoubtedly a lot cleverer, something that comes through experience. When it launched the Juke, Nissan thought a reasonable number of buyers would want four-wheel drive, but actually only 3% did. So Renault watched and learnt, designing this Captur from the outset on a two-wheel drive only platform that didn't have to support all-wheel drive hardware, and so could be lower, lighter, cheaper to produce and support bodywork that would create a more spacious cabin. It's pretty much completely based on the little Clio Supermini, or more accurately, the Clio Sports Tourer estate model that isn't imported here. If you can picture what that car might be like when stretched upwards and outwards and toughened up with big wheels and plenty of scuff protection, then you'll pretty much have this Captur in your mind's eye. The finished shape remains compact, just 4.1 metres in length, but 200mm of ground clearance, that's double that of a Clio, gives it the chunky, high-set crossover demeanour that this fashionable market segment demands. Which means you get the all-important high-set driving position with loads of headroom that typical buyers want. This one's sitting you twice as high as a normal Supermini in the same kind of elevated position you'd get in Renault's scenic MPV. Which is nice, though it doesn't stop the steeply raked windscreen pillars slightly impeding your vision through the corners. The plastics used are harder and less appealing than those of some rivals, but they seem to be well screwed together by the Spanish factory, and like the optional, removable, washable seat covers, they look as if they'll withstand the scuffs and stains of family life. Now, getting comfortable is easy thanks to 70mm of height adjustment for the rather firm seat, though the three-spoke wheel could do without the gloss black plastic inserts that leave you with sweaty palms. Around you there's a dashboard lifted almost entirely from the Clio, yet another of those apparently sculpted in the shape of an aircraft wing and designed, so Renault says, to be modern, welcoming and occupant friendly. Well, it's certainly modern. There's a rather pointless but fashionable engine start-stop button and shiny, jazzy cabin finishes that command your attention and refuse to let it go, especially if you're in a car that's benefited from or been afflicted by the huge array of trim personalisation that's possible. Ahead of you lies an overly confident, chrome-surrounded instrument cluster dominated by the kind of digital speedo that not everyone will like. Equally eye-catching, if specified, is the consumer electronics fest that dominates the silver and gloss black trimmed centre console in the form of a tablet-like display that is the 7-inch R-Link colour touchscreen. Now from here, as well as controlling the stereo and the TomTom sat-nav, there's the opportunity to surf the internet. You can email, use text-to-speak messaging, download a whole range of Renault-sourced apps, and even get economy driving tips. It's really very clever indeed. But this is a family car, and it needs to be practical. Is it? Well, in lots of ways, yes. I have to say, I was expecting a bit more in terms of in-cabin storage space. Left-hand drive buyers can forgive the fact that the cup holders are tiny and the door bins, because they have to leave space for the huge speakers, are rather small, for they get a roomy 11-litre slide-out drawer where you'd normally find the glove box. Now sadly, as the electrics can't be swapped over to include this feature on right-hand drive models, UK customers don't get it, so we're stuck with a regular 5-litre glove box instead. Still, there's a large lidded stowage area on top of the dash, and most models get a removable 1.6 litre stowage bin between the front seats. Plus, there are further compensations further back, where there's plenty of evidence of clever design. You notice this even before you get in. The base of each door is shaped to prevent shoes and clothes getting dirty when climbing aboard. Inside, the stretching that's taken place on the Clio supermini platform has released enough space to make this back seat pretty much as roomy as it would be in a Focus-sized family hatch, which means that 2 adults can be comfortable, but 3, well, maybe they can fit at a pinch. It's certainly much bigger than the tiny space you're offered in a Nissan Juke. Plusher models get these Art Deco elastic straps on the front seat backs, and all variants get a pretty unique feature in this class, a sliding rear bench that moves backwards or forwards by up to 160mm, though only as one unit, enabling you to prioritise either legroom or boot space. As for that boot, well, position the seats to maximise luggage space, and cargo capacity rises from 377 litres. That's about the same as you get in a Golf or a Focus family hatch, and it's 77 litres bigger than a Clio. It rises to 455 litres with these seats right forward. But in pushing the right forward, you create this hungry gap between the seat backs and the boot floor. On the plus side, it's a false floor, so it can be repositioned to suit the height of the load you need to carry. And it can conceal more valuable items in an 80-litre space away from prying eyes. And it's reversible, with carpeting on one side and rubberised plastic on the other, so that you can flip it over when you've muddy boots or dirty dogs to carry, then easily sponge it clean afterwards. Now push forward the 60/40 split folding rear bench, and you will find that it doesn't quite lay completely flat, but it does free up 1,234 litres of total fresh air, and that's about 40 litres more than you get in a rival Peugeot 2008. If you're attracted by the look of this small, trendily styled little 5-door crossover model, then you'll be pleased to learn that it's one of the most affordable cars of its kind on the market. Prices range mainly in the £13,000 to £17,000 bracket, representing a premium of between £800 and £1,100 over equivalently powered and specified versions of the 5-door Clio Supermini, upon which Renault has based this car. The Captur range offers just two mainstream engines, both offering 90 brake horsepower, and there's a £1,400 premium to move from the 0.9 litre TCE petrol unit to the 1.5 litre DCI diesel. There's no four-wheel drive option. Time to put that kind of pricing into perspective in a small crossover market where two cars provide the most direct competition. Now, the one you'll be most familiar with is Nissan's trendy Duke, the model that really kick-started this fashionable little market segment. Here, the comparisons make good reading from Renault's point of view. The Duke, after all, is a smaller car with a boot half the size. In base petrol form, it costs £500 more than a comparable Captur TCE model. That's the base petrol version. And the Duke offers an old-tech 1.6 litre petrol engine that's 20% less efficient than the Renault's more modern unit. And a diesel Duke? Well, that offers a little more power than you get from a comparable Captur DCI 90, like I've got here, but that doesn't translate into much more performance, and there's a £1,000 premium to pay. In other words, unless you're really attracted by the Nissan's looks, the Captur is a better buy all round. A closer rival, I would have said, is the more recently launched Peugeot 2008 crossover. Now, that car doesn't make the overt visual statement that you get here, but it's similarly sized and similarly priced to a Captur, though most versions of this Renault do hold a list price advantage of a few £100s. Where the Captur holds a big advantage, though, is when it comes to diesel power. Peugeot's old 68 brake horsepower 1.4 litre HDI unit makes the 2008 much slower, thirstier and dirtier than a comparable Captur DCI 90. So the fact that Peugeot wants around £500 more for it may just make up your mind for you. Get beyond Duke and 2008 comparisons, and mostly the news is all good. A Mini Countryman is slightly smaller, pricier to run, and 25% more costly to buy. Also pricier are the Ford EcoSport and Fiat 500X models that turned up even later to the crossover party than this Renault did. And the Captur is just about big enough to be considered as a viable alternative to other slightly larger small crossover designs that also cost around 25% more to buy in petrol form and are even pricier than that in diesel guise. Now, I'm thinking here of cars like Vauxhall's Mocha, Chevrolet's Trax, Skoda's Yeti, Mitsubishi's ASX and Suzuki's SX4 S-Cross. All of these models can offer slightly more performance than equivalent Captur variants, but cost much more to run. If, having considered all of this, you conclude that it is this Renault that you really want, then there are some pleasant surprises when it comes to standard specification. Whichever 5-door Captur variant you choose, the 0.9 litre TCE petrol, this 1.5 litre DCI 90 diesel, or even the rare TCE 120 EDC automatic petrol model, there are kit items included that will cost you more on many rivals. Virtually all models get air conditioning and front fog lights, and absolutely all of them get alloy wheels, daytime running lights, cruise control with a speed limiter, a trip computer, a height adjustable driver's seat, power front windows and mirrors, Bluetooth phone compatibility, a decent quality USB and aux-in compatible CD stereo with fingertip control, plus hill start assist to stop you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions. Top spec variants like the one I'm trying here are worth considering as they come with Renault's MediaNav sat-nav system, operable via a 7-inch colour touchscreen. And they offer the affordable option of upgrading that screen to include the company's clever R-Link infotainment system, which features voice control. Now, it comes as a package that not only upgrades your sat-nav functionality to a real-time TomTom Live setup and gives you a better quality Archimedes radio with 3D sound, but also is able to connect into the car's own electronic systems, so providing an Eco 2 eco-driving function. You'll need to pay an ongoing live services subscription to fully use everything that R-Link has to offer. But once you have, through the touchscreen, you'll be able to access the Renault R-Link store for viewing or downloading specialist apps for everything from tweeting to games. Now, with the right app added, you can also search yellow pages, check your emails, and use a text-to-speak function. Personally, I'd go first straight for the R sound effect app, which can simulate up to 6 different engine sound profiles, which are then synchronized with live speed and acceleration. So you can match your Captur's sound to the mood that you're in. Brilliant. Through the R-Link system, you can also scan local fuel prices and get directions to the nearest garage, look at weather reports, find the locations of speed cameras, and even monitor surrounding air quality. In fact, you can match just about everything on this car to your mood with a package of roof, bonnet and tailgate decal packs, single or two-tone paint finishes, colour-matched bodywork trim strip inserts, different wheel colours and interior trim choices that can really give your Captur a bespoke feel. If you can't be bothered to choose between all of that lot, then you'll be pleased to find that Renault can simplify things by offering a personalisation program built around 3 main themes, known as Arizona, based around a striking metallic orange, Miami, based around a vibrant blue, and Manhattan, based around an ivory white. Or you can pick and choose the bits you like from each. Here, for example, my optional diamond black roof has Manhattan decals. Once you've spent a pleasurable few hours deciding upon the exact look and feel of your own personal Captur model, you might also want to find some extra budget for a few tempting options. Now, if you can stretch to a plush dynamique spec variant like the one I have here, I'd want to try and specify the patented washable and removable seat covers, which can be machine washed at 30 degrees, though presumably you'd have to put all the covers in together each time to avoid uneven fade rates. Other useful extra additions include a rear parking camera and heated seats. Safety has always been a Renault strong point, a record that continues here, with a 5-star Euro NCAP safety rating having been achieved, together with high-class rankings for pedestrian and child protection. Now, this is all due to a complete safety kit roster running to twin front, side and curtain airbags, plus Isofix child seat fastenings, anti-whiplash head restraints and a pedestrian-friendly bonnet, plus the usual electronic assistance for traction and stability control. As well as that, there are of course anti-lock brakes with emergency brake assist for sudden stops that'll be immediately advertised to following motorists by automatically activating hazard warning flashes. The Captur needs to not only look good, drive well and provide reliable practical family motoring, it also needs to work out on the balance sheet, and plenty of work has been put in by the French brand in terms of weight reduction, aerodynamics and high efficiency engineering to ensure that it does. Let's start with weight. This car is essentially no heavier than the Clio supermini it's based upon, even though it offers you more space inside. Then we come to the aerodynamics. Now, when the engine doesn't need cooling, powered flaps behind the bumper automatically close off the air intakes, reducing drag. Meanwhile, ducting inside the engine compartment channels the flow of air, again improving aerodynamic performance. You also get ultra-low rolling resistance tyres that reduce fuel consumption by up to 3%. And last but not least, there's a stop and start system that cuts the engine when you don't need it, stuck in traffic or waiting at the lights. As a driver, you can do your part too, if you keep an eye on the gear shift indicator light and also use the so-called driving style indicator that's offered on models fitted with the R-Link multimedia system. Now, it's based around a light in the instrument display that aims to provide real-time feedback on the way you're driving based on your speed, gear shifts and deceleration. Green, yellow or orange lights with varying levels of brightness help adapt your driving style, and you can even analyse it all via an Eco2 function in the R-Link system that can produce efficiency trip reports on each journey, can compare the efficiency of journeys conducted on the same route, and even offers so-called eco-coaching with personalised driving tips. Get it all right and the result will be a set of impressively economical running cost figures. Perhaps the most interesting power plant option is the TCI 90 unit, a 3-cylinder 899cc petrol engine that manages to return 56.5 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and emits just 115 grams per kilometre of CO2. The more powerful TCE 120 EDC automatic version does pretty well too, getting 52.3 miles to the gallon and 125 grams per kilometre. Go diesel and you'll be looking at 76.4 miles to the gallon and 95 grams per kilometre from the DCI 90 engine, unless you order it in automatic form, in which case the figures fall to 72.4 miles to the gallon and 103 grams per kilometre. Either way, diesel-powered Captur models offer an improvement of about 10% over the figures returned by rival Nissan Juke or Peugeot 2008 competitors. The returns I've quoted for this car assume that you've activated the Eco button. That's accessible via this switch just below the gear stick here. Now, this delivers fuel savings of up to 10% by slightly restricting the engine's pulling power, adopting a more efficient control program for the air conditioning and heating systems, and, in the case of the EDC automatic models, switching to a more efficient gear change software mapping setting. Negatives? There's not much to carp about here, but one slight annoyance is the small fuel tank. It's just 45 litres. What else? There are long service intervals of either 18,000 miles or 2 years, and a maintenance-free timing chain on petrol models. Green friendliness? This car certainly does its part here. Over 85% of the materials used in the construction are recyclable, with a further 10% of parts recoverable in the form of energy. Plus, recycled materials account for 16% of the plastics used. Few other cars can better that. I should also tell you about residual values, not traditionally a Renault strong point. Independent experts CAP reckon that after 3 years or 60,000 miles, a Captur will still be worth between 41 to 43% of what you paid for it, better even than the previous class leader in this respect, Mini's Countryman. Now, little details may also help at resale time, like the way that the optional washable and removable seat covers can be unzipped and taken out for proper cleaning in order to more easily get the interior fully pristine before sale. Or you could replace them altogether to really impress a second buyer. Insurance groupings range between 9 and 15. Renault also reckons that this Captur's standard 4+ package of free servicing, excluding wear and tear items, AA roadside assistance and vehicle warranty during the first 4 years of ownership will save buyers around £1,000 in ongoing costs. That warranty also gives you unlimited mileage in the first 2 years, with a limit of up to 100,000 miles in the subsequent 2. Passionate and practical, the Captur is an endearing thing. Of course, there's always a danger with this class of car that in its mix of SUV, MPV and family hatch, you end up with a confection lacking the core strengths inherent in any of these three genres. Broadly speaking, this is a trap Renault has avoided here, provided your expectations in each of these areas aren't too great. It doesn't have four-wheel drive. You can only just carry 5 people, and you won't want to drive it on its door handles, none of which will bother most buyers at the smaller end of the crossover segment one jot. They'll love the buying personalisation and trendy touches like the removable seat covers and the clever apps you can download through the R-Link infotainment system, at which point class-leading running costs and versatile features like the sliding rear bench and the double-sided boot floor will come as a welcome bonus. True, this Captur faces increasing competition from a growing band of very talented rivals, but it's a model you must consider before buying any one of them. A cleverer crossover. If you really want a car of this kind, then you'll really want to try it.